Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us on Speed Racing Network. As always, we've got some Sunday Night Cup Series action for you. I'm Greg Olenek here with my co-host Brandon Domain. Brandon, looking a little bit different today with just our pictures up there. So how you feeling, bud?
I'm good. It's nice that we're getting some racing tonight. No, we didn't earlier today with the Real Life Cup Series getting rained out. But getting to see these guys go around Watkins Glen, had the joy of doing that a couple times this week in the trucks and in Xfinity with you on Thursday as well. So excited to see how these guys handle Watkins Glen with these 7, 8, 9 turns, however many you want to call them, as it's always kind of up in the air on that. But love Watkins Glen, love road racing, and excited to see how it plays out tonight.
Yeah, I was kind of curious to see if you were going to join me tonight. I know you love running these road courses, and that's the case for a lot of these guys. So we're going to see a lot of part-time drivers racing up from their normal series. And that's going to really shake up the field tonight. Got a lot of heavy hitters out there. So I expect to see a great race, right?
Absolutely, and most notably, and I know we'll talk about this when we get to the independents on the team rosters today, but I mean, you have Adrian Schumacher, who won on Thursday in the Xfinity race, won our Cup Roval race, the only other road course race for the Cup guys here this season, and doing that while in Xfinity regular. So, I mean, he's kind of the AJ Allmendinger right now, where you just look at him and think that's going to be the favorite on the road courses if it's in Xfinity, which is his natural league, or if he jumps up to Cup and runs a road race there. He's the guy that everybody's got their eyes on.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing what he can do. But we had a great race last week at Charlotte. This week, though, it's a little bit different. We're here at the Glen for the Battle at the Glen 125. Some road course racing action for week 12. Just two races, before we are into the playoffs. So we're going to be having 50 laps. No fast repairs out there tonight. And this is an important race for those people trying to make that cut line, Brandon.
Super important, and I know we've kind of joked about it on here before, but it does kind of mentally start playing that role that, the points all season long are all equal to the points now, but they seem so much more important as we get to these final couple races before we get to the playoff. We have Watkins Glen here tonight, Michigan next week, and then we're going playoff racing, and there's a few guys that have some scenarios in mind that they can lock themselves in already, but there's a lot of guys around that cut line where it's still super close, and this road course could be a make or break race.
Yeah, we've seen so many people setting up practice sessions all week, so I expect to see a lot of fast cars out there and some great racing here tonight in these 50 laps. But let's go ahead and move on now here in the Healthcare Billing Incorporated pre-race show. And as always, we give you the league details. 20-week fixed setup league, no fast repairs like we already mentioned. And these guys are paying $15 a week to get in on the action, and that's setting them up for weekly as well as season payouts. We'll get to those in a moment. $1,000, though, going to the first place champion. 5-person teams are allowed as well, and there's a team championship for that is shaping up to be quite something here, Brandon.
And we've got our new team playoff that's going to be taking place here this season. That'll also start when we get to Vegas in a couple weeks, so that's going to be really exciting, seeing how that plays out, where even with one team running away with it so far this season, it's all going to get reset back to zero, and they're going to have to earn it for those final 7 races, same as the individual side with the playoffs, as they're racing for that $1,000 first place prize.
Yeah, so we'll have 2 separate races going on during the playoffs here in the last 7 weeks on SRN. But we got to get to the Glen first and what they're racing for tonight. So let's go ahead and check out race payouts here. First place going to come away with $45, tripling that entry fee. Second place going to get $30. Third through fifth going to get their money back.
And that third through fifth, it seems like that's not a whole lot, but it's always nice to get that money back, put it forward to next week's race, just one less thing to worry about. And then, doubling your money, tripling your money. I know a lot of people play like the daily fantasy stuff and things like that. You do that on that. That's a great day, no matter how much you put in on that. So you do that here in a race where you're in control of everything the entire time. That's a great way to spend a Sunday night, tripling your money if you get the win.
Yeah, not bad at all. Hey, I'll take it. So let's go ahead and now check out what they've been racing as for the season payouts here. And these guys are racing for $1,000 going to the first place champion. Second going to come away with $600. Third going to get $350. Fourth place going to get $200. And if you make that final race in Atlanta, you're guaranteed to make $125 at least. Sixth place, though, going to come away with $100. Seventh, 75, and eighth going to get $50. And it's always important to mention that sixth through eighth because that's something new here on SRN this season. We're going to be paying out those guys too, so they have something to race for when we get to Atlanta.
Yeah, and that's going to be real exciting. Those 5 drivers that just missed that cut into the Championship 5 in Atlanta for the season finale, they still have those top 3 spots within themselves to make some money back over the course of the season. That wasn't in place last season. And I know on the truck side, I was one of those drivers that was just short of making that championship race. So it was kind of just like, oh man, that's a little, all right, we're going to go racing. But having that little extra money on the line there would just make it that much cooler and that much of a bigger thing to end the season on a high note. But no bigger high note than that $1,000 prize. You pay for every single race on the season. It's $300. So the top 3 this season making more than their money back just from that season payout alone.
Yeah, and that's something that they pride themselves on here are these payouts right here on the screen. So can't wait to get to the time to decide who takes home the cash. But like I said, we have a few more races to go until we get there. But if you're one of those guys looking to get in on the action and try to make some money here on the sim, you might want to go ahead and check out Kane Cook Sim Coaching. This guy knows exactly what he's talking about. I worked with him early on in the season and the end of last season, and he completely changed the game for me. Helped me get in victory lane a few times. He can do the same thing for you. Brandon, I know he's been working with you a lot as well.
Yeah, especially during the off season, it was great. Just kind of getting to know the Xfinity car. I wasn't too familiar with it. Spent a lot of time running trucks, and then you kind of get the big eyes and start running the Cup Series on the main server in the official races. And Xfinity just kind of fell to the wayside on that, and that was a big learning curve just because of how difficult those cars are. Kane runs the Cup cars in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, running for that $300,000 purse at the end of the season that they're wrapping up here pretty soon as well. And, he's still, even with that knowledge in the Cup cars, doing it in the Xfinity cars, coaching me on that. So much knowledge there as well. So no matter what level, truck, Xfinity, Cup, that's the guy you want to be working with, and you can always book that session on speedracingnetwork.com.
Yeah, really easy to set up one of those sessions. But, man, if you just want to learn anything as far as ovals go, this is the guy. He did it all, building it up to an I rating of over 7,000 as well. So not an easy feat by any means. But moving on now, let's go ahead and check out this week's Beer of the Week brought to us by Beer Street Journal.
This week's Beer Street Journal Beer of the Week comes out of Buskey Cider in Richmond, Virginia. They just released a limited edition cider a couple weeks ago called Buskey Strawberry Kiwi. The hard cider features locally sourced Virginia apples, plus strawberries and kiwis. You can find this limited edition hard cider in the Richmond, Hampton Roads, and Nova areas of Virginia. So if you're looking for a hard cider on those cool fall nights, look for the hard cider that smells like strawberries and tastes like kiwi. Look for Buskey Strawberry Kiwi Hard Cider. The Beer of the Week is brought to you by BeerStreetJournal.com, the leading online publication for craft beer reviews. Go to BeerStreetJournal.com to find your next great beer. And as always, you must be 21 to enjoy, and please drink responsibly.
Well, thanks as always to Beer Street Journal for this week's Beer of the Week. Not a beer, though. Buskey Hard Cider, Brandon. Strawberry Kiwi. What are you thinking?
That's a new one to me. Strawberry kiwi sounds like a good combination. Never really had it in a cider before, but that's one of those ones that I'd give it a shot and see how that works. And it just sounds like a good one, honestly, even though it's a different flavor. 6% alcohol. That's pretty solid, solidly strong cider as well. So definitely something that I would give a shot.
All right. Well, if you want to go ahead and learn more about this cider, go ahead and check it out at BeerStreetJournal.com. But moving on now here on the Healthcare Billing Incorporated pre-race show, inside the cut standings and right there in green, locked into the playoffs, James Holzer and Landon Lacey, both out on Next Level Motorsports. They're in. They're out here having fun tonight and building up bonus points at the same time. So Seth Berger, Scott Healy, Timothy Latham all looking to get in. Reese Schaefer looking to get in tonight. We have scenarios for all of these guys here on the screen, but Brandon, who's sticking out to you there at the bottom?
Honestly, the one that really stands out is the man that's on the bubble at this point, and that's David Duke. And the big reason for that isn't only because he's just above that cut line, but look at the gap that's above him, where you have Austin Reedy another 25 points ahead of him. So there's a whole lot of space from 14th towards that cut line. But David Duke is kind of on an island at this point, and getting to a road course, that's one of those interesting moments where it's the haves or the have-nots, and it's really easy to lose a whole lot of points. If you're not one of those guys comfortable on a road course, if David does have one of those rough nights on a road course, he could be in big danger, and it could be really hard to make up those spots and move back into the top 15.
Yeah, good catch there, because, at the same time with that gap, it looks like there's only really one spot up for grabs at the moment. Taking a look outside the cut, these are the guys that are right there. Michael Politis only 5 points out. So, really only one spot to grab, and Michael Politis trying to take it from David Duke. Max Service there in 17th, 17 points back. Emerson Arden, 18th, he's 19 points back. And then you got John Honeycutt sitting there, 20 points back. I'm going to go ahead and probably say that's probably going to be our cut line after tonight. These guys all trying to get in for one spot.
And generally, my rule of thumb is about 10, 12 points a race is what you're looking at to still be alive in this thing. And, of course, everything could break loose and you can make a big jump. But in general, I would say 10 to 12 points. So I'm thinking those top four here outside the cut are the ones to keep an eye on. But the big thing is, we were just talking about David Duke and how much of a gap there is above him. Michael Politis, Max Service, Emerson Arden, all very fast around road courses, so this could be a very good night for those three.
Yeah, it's going to definitely shake some things up as we approach the playoffs, but right here, these are the playoff clinching scenarios. Seth Berger just needs a 23rd or better finish. Scott Healy needs to finish 18th or better. Latham, 16th or better. Reese Schaefer, 11th or better. Dalton Tucker with a 10th or better. Dean Brummett with a 6th or better. And Nicholas Goen with a win. So we can have a lot happen here tonight, Brandon.
A whole lot could happen, and if you're Berger, Healy, Latham, I would even say Schaefer and Tucker, just keep the car on the track. Keep it a clean night. Try to avoid making those mistakes around a road course. There's no cautions to bail you out if you make a mistake. Keeping it clean out there, as few incident points as possible, staying on track, avoiding those mistakes, that's going to get you in the top half of the field. We got 30 on the grid tonight, it looks like. You're going to get in the top 15 if you keep it clean. So I think that's one of those things. If you're one of those 5, maybe even just 3, Berger to Latham, that's all you got to do tonight. Just keep the car on the track.
Well, taking a look now at the team standings here. In SRN's Cup Series, first place, Next Level Motorsports. They have clinched their first round bye with 7 wins already on the season. Tank Racing sitting there in second. Murray Reedy Smith Road Racing in third. Fourth place Revved. R&D going to be 5th place, and 6th going to be Stryker Motorsports. And again, this is all for seeding, so that's why you see Next Level Motorsports clinching a bye in that first round of playoffs.
And Tank Racing won't be too far away. You're looking at 84 points being the gap there. It's not that they're going to clinch it tonight with ease or anything like that, but it just looks like that's going to be a tough number to account for. Honestly, I would say that this whole lineup 1 through 6 pretty well spaced out at this point, that this might be the order at the end of things. Of course, anything could change, especially with the road course tonight, but you're looking at Next Level and Tank likely having that first round bye when we get to that first round of 3 races, and then it could very well be Murray Reedy Smith against Stryker and Revved against R&D once we get to Vegas.
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be interesting once we get to playoff time with this new team championship playoff format. So looking forward to that. But now moving on, let's get into the team introductions. And we got one up here. The guys that are running away with it in the team standings, Next Level Motorsports going to come up here first. And they have their team captain of James Holzer running away with the wins here this year. Landon Lacey piling them up as well. You got Gabriel Ellison, Timothy Latham, and Nick Goen all looking forward to getting into victory lane at some point, maybe tonight.
Yeah, and this entire team has been fast out in practice thus far, and very early on in qualifying, Landon Lacey sitting on the provisional pole, but we're on week number 12. This team has 7 of the wins over the first 11 races. Just unbelievable pace that we've seen from Holzer and Lacey, who are going to steal the headlines, but also from Latham, Ellison, Goen. When they're out on the track, they are running very well also, and typically contending for top 3s, top 5s. So it's not like it's just Holzer and Lacey out there. This team top to bottom has just been stellar.
Yeah, Gabriel Ellison almost coming away with the win last week at Charlotte. We'll see what he can do here tonight at the Roval. But let's go ahead and now check out Tank Racing here coming up here in the team introductions. And they're the team sitting in second in the points. They're going to have their team captain of Emerson Arden out there. They got the Reese Schaefer number 17 machine, Joshua Balliot in the number 7 machine, both looking really fast out there. Seth Berger, Max Service also putting some quick times down in qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking right now at 3 of the tank drivers sitting in the top 6 provisionally on the grid as it stands right now, with Arden, Balliet, and Service. Berger and Schaefer also looked very good in practice. I think everybody on tank, I want to say, was in the top 10 on the speed chart in practice. So this team looking very solid tonight. They had good results on the road course race we had earlier this season in Charlotte. I expect very much the same tonight.
Now moving on in the team introductions here on the Healthcare Billing Incorporated pre-race show. It's going to be Murray Reedy Smith Road Racing, and they're going to have the number 1 machine of Austin Reedy out there tonight. Their team captain Kyle Benson out there as well in the 10 machine. He's been running good all season long. Craig Lautenslager in the 13, John Honeycutt in the 50, and Scott Healy, last week's winner at Charlotte, out there in the 64. He's looking fast.
He's definitely looking fast as well this week with all the practices and including tonight's practice. Currently sitting second on the provisional grid, but one to keep an eye on that might be a bit of a sleeper tonight is going to be Kyle Benson. Had a lot of good speed earlier this week when he dropped down from the Cup Series just to get a little practice and just really looked fast then. He's looking fast again here tonight as well, so I would keep an eye on that 10 car also. But I mean, you look at the team name, Murray Reedy Smith Road Racing, kind of gives you an idea that they might be lining up for a decent night.
Well, another team looking to have a decent night, Rev Racing, out there with 4 of their drivers here tonight at the Glen. Byron McDonald in the number 9 machine, Scott Kalal in the 23 machine, Dalton Tucker looking pretty fast out there in the 73 machine, and the 99 of Christopher Lawrence.
Yeah, and this is a team that, you know, once we get past the top 3, you're looking at a lot of teams that just the numbers catch up to them. Revs being one of them, having 4 drivers as opposed to that full lineup of 5 where you can take your 3 scores from each week. So it just kind of narrows that margin of error that you can have on the racetrack each and every week. But there's still been a lot of good speed out there. Byron McDonald in the 9 has had some rough luck. But Dalton Tucker, Scott Kalal, they've just been very consistent, very fast, and I think they've gotten better and better and kind of rounded into form as the season's gone on.
Yeah, definitely a lot of growth in this Cup Series team, so looking forward to seeing how they finish out the year. But moving on now, let's go ahead and check R&D Motorsports out. And they have the guy we mentioned is on the bubble, their team captain, David Duke, looking to have a good run out here tonight at the Glen, because he's got people nipping on his heels trying to make the playoff run. And then Jordan Saylor is out there in the 55, as well as 60 car of Joshua Siegfried.
And all eyes are going to be on David Duke tonight. And right now, looking at the grid, he's going to be in a bit of that danger zone when it comes to the start, where all that traffic just kind of bogs up into turn 1 and the S's, as he's in the middle of the pack right now as qualifying continues to go on. So that's going to be a bit of a touchy start to this race there for the man on the bubble entering this one. But again, just keep the car clean, try to manage as many points as you can in this race. A little bit hard to do when you kind of start in that mid-pack, but it's something that you can get away with, and if you do, it should be a good night.
Yeah, sitting in 19th right now as it stands, but we'll see how he does tonight. But moving on, we got one more team left here in the standings, or in the team introduction, excuse me. Brandon, it's your team. Go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, and there's going to be one of the independents with a little bit of an affiliation as well tonight, but the 4 that are going to be counting towards those point standings going to be Bo Brady in the 19. Had a strong run Thursday night in the Xfinity side. Raul Meza in the 37, trying to get back, rounding into that form that he had early on in the season. Been a little bit of a struggle here lately. Kyle Johnson in the 48, Joe Ruggles Jr. in the 96, rounding out that team of 4.
Yeah, looking forward to see what these guys can do here tonight at the Glen. But last and not least, we got some independents out there tonight. Dean Brummett in the 25 machine, Michael Politis in the 8, Matt Johnson in the 61, Adrian Schumacher, who is on the pole currently with just a few seconds left to go in the 82. Zach Deuscher showing up in the 22 tonight, and Jack Hedgecox in the 43, who had his heart broken at the end of the Xfinity Series race, came so close to winning, but some lap traffic hindering that.
Yeah, and that's a rough one, and I know we talked a lot about that after the race in our team channel, and just that's a tough one to come back from, but glad he's out here tonight trying to shake that off and get right back into it. I know the Cup car doesn't have a lot of experience in it as far as the league goes, so hopefully he can kind of figure that out here quickly, but he's shown he's very good around this track.
All right, well, let's go ahead and head out there for the Battle at the Glen 125 and check our starting lineup out. Adrian Schumacher, like I said, on the pole tonight. Scott Healy coming in at second for Murray Reedy Smith Road Racing, just 700s off the pace. James Holzer in third for Next Level Motorsports, and Landon Lacey in fourth.
Row 3, we're going to have Nick Goen for Next Level as well. On the outside row 3, Reese Schaefer is going to be leading the charge for Tank Racing. Out on row number 4, starting 7th, will be Dalton Tucker, the top qualifier for Revved. And then Kyle Benson, the second quickest for Murray Reedy Smith Road Racing.
Yeah, Gabriel Ellison in 9th. So close to that win last week at Charlotte. Emerson Arden rounding out the top 10 for Tank Racing. Joshua Balliet there for Tank Racing as well, starting 11th. And then Max Service going to be rounding out our top 12. So a lot of Tank Racing, like you said, up towards the front of this thing. We'll see if they're able to move up to the front as the race goes on. But 50 laps to go around here tonight. Brandon, who you taking?
Well, and I know we were talking about it before, but I think there's going to be something else that kind of caught my attention, honestly. So I do expect a good night for Joshua Balliet. He originally caught my eye because of how clean he was around the Roval. But somebody I definitely want to look at tonight is going to be Emerson Arden in the 10th starting spot in that 57 car. He's just outside that cut line. Been very good when it comes to these road courses, and I think that it's a little hard to make some passes around here at Watkins Glen as everybody kind of gets spread out a pretty decent bit after the first handful of laps, but he's shown he's able to pass cars. So I'm going to say that Emerson is probably going to be a guy to keep an eye on for at least a top 5 finish tonight.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say Nicholas Goen is going to be my pick tonight because I think he's going to pull off that win and in scenario here at the Glen. Runs really well at these road races, so looking forward to seeing if he can get that first win this year for Next Level Motorsports and join his teammates Landon Lacey and James Holzer, who already have a number of wins for Next Level. But this is my pick tonight, so sticking to it.
Not a bad one. And honestly, we're getting to that point of the season, second half of the year. That's when he started to really catch fire on the Xfinity side last season, and his first win came at a road course at Circuit of the Americas. So that's not a bad pick at all. And as we watch them taking this long pace lap around the track, obviously one of the names that's going to catch your eye is Adrian Schumacher. He is going to be on the pole, one on Thursday. Yes, there was that little bit of a moment with lap traffic that did kind of catch Jack Hedgecox there, but Schumacher still very much in that position within a couple of seconds to be able to take advantage of, and he's shown some great pace around this track.
Yeah, these guys definitely know who he is as he won at the Roval earlier on in the season. Scott Healy, though, also ran really well at the Roval, just got a little separated from the 82. So looking forward to seeing how these two battle tonight and who really takes it to the other. And I really believe that Scott Healy has possibly what it takes to go back to back tonight.
Very well could, and honestly, I'll say that I didn't expect him to be as fast as he is up on the speed chart when we went through practice and went through qualifying. I thought he would be somewhere that would be that top 5, top 6 type of pace, but sitting there on the front row, he was third quickest in practice. Some great runs here so far at Watkins Glen for Healy.
Well, rounding the last couple of turns before we go green here, got to make sure our producer has that turn 1 camera ready, as it's going to get wild here on the first start. The only start, there it is. We're going to see how these guys get down into this turn, but the pace car about to peel off, and the field is in Adrian Schumacher's hands. We are green for the battle at the Glen 125. Let's go ahead and check out that camera as they go really hard on the brakes here into turn 1.
It's always dicey getting into turn 1 around here. Those first couple rows, it's not so bad, but we got 3 wide, 4 wide at one point.
Wow.
Getting through turn 1, and they're going to make it work, it seems.
Emerson Arden in the fence.
Oh, we got one in the fence, and it is Arden. Oh, no.
Not what he needs at all, as he needs every bit of points he can get as he's trying to make it inside the cut here. It's a tough break for the 57.
Oh, that's a rough one there, being so close to that cut line, and he's going to be the only one that's going to be really affected by that as we see them go through the bus stop here for the first time tonight. Very quick for Adrian Schumacher. Healy continuing to hold pace, though, still within about 1/3 of a second.
Yeah, Healy not too far off, and James Holzer, Landon Lacey, Nick Gowen, all Next Level Motorsports cars trying to run them down and control this race. Whoa, Scott Healy gets real loose heading into the turn there. Had to get hard on the brakes there, or he might have run over Adrian Schumacher possibly.
Yeah, definitely looked like he was going to try to see how aggressive he could be, or just kind of not being used to being right behind somebody going into that turn. It does kind of mess with your sight lines a little bit on when your braking point comes up, so maybe that's something that he didn't get to experience a whole lot of in practice. As we check out turn 1, a whole lot gentler this time. It's everybody going about single file through there. There's a little bit of side-by-side finally, and almost some contact there with Politis in the 8 car. I believe that was Craig Lautenschlager just behind him, but everybody makes it work there. We go through the equally sketchy S's, especially once we get later into the run and that back end of the car starts to lighten up as the fuel load burns off. Real easy to get loose there, but this bus stop, probably the most known part of Watkins Glen to NASCAR fans, just working your way through that. A little bit tricky there, and then heading into that carousel.
Yeah, trying to carry as much speed as you possibly can, exiting the carousel, taking you all the way down to this left-hander, this 90-degree left-hander that you can really, if you apex this perfectly, you can carry so much speed into the final turn here before you get to the front stretch. And then you just let the car roll right here, get back on it, try not to break it loose like it was in the Xfinity cars. I feel like these cars have a lot more handling, because you're right, those S's are very sketchy.
Yeah, they will sneak up on you, and honestly, it feels like there's not really a turn around Watkins Glen that you feel safe in every single time. It's just every turn kind of puts you on edge just a little bit less so in the Cup cars, I think, than the Xfinity cars, just because of the way that they handle a little bit more downforce here on the Cup cars, but it can still bite you at any time, and you can see, watch how much James Holzer sawing on that wheel through the S's, and you look at that from any other camera angle from the outside of the car, it doesn't look that bad. You're just kind of thinking, oh, you just kind of swerve a little bit left, swerve a little bit right, all that stuff, and it's not that bad. But look at how much he's having to work that wheel through the S's, and now look how smooth he is through the carousel. It just tells you a whole lot about how tricky that uphill S is.
Yeah, it is a handful indeed, but Holzer handling it like a king out there. He's sitting there 1.5 seconds back of our leader, Adrian Schumacher. Scott Healy not losing too much time after he almost got into our leader a few laps ago, sitting 0.8 seconds behind Adrian Schumacher. But if you've fallen back, Landon Lacey's starting to fall back a little bit, 2.5 seconds. But sitting in 4th, and then Nick Gowen about 3.5 seconds off our leader.
And I think it's still early, but one thing we can talk about, and with no cautions, it's a lot easier to figure out pit windows. But with this distance being 50 laps, and we were talking about this before, the Xfinity guys and the truck guys, they knew it was a one-stop race. The Cup guys don't necessarily know if it's one stop or 2 stops, and it's going to depend on a whole lot of things. Do you feel like your tires can go the 25 laps, or you can hang on to pace? can you be conservative enough on the throttle and in your gears to get to 25 laps and make this a one-stop race? Or are you thinking that the pace or the way that you're aggressive on the throttle or the gears, is that going to make it where you have to stop twice because of fuel? This race is going to be real interesting strategy-wise and almost kind of playing out like an F1 race. We know everybody has to pit at least once, but is there anybody that's going to decide to pit twice and try to play into that quicker pace strategy?
Yeah, and if you overstep your bounds and you misjudge how far you can go and you accidentally go an extra lap too far, you're stuck out there with no fuel trying to make it halfway. That could be your race there, and you're back on pit road, trying to get your fuel back up, but you have to take that tow to get back.
And that tow is going to put you a lap down. And one of the nice things about a road course is you can make a green flag pit stop and not have to worry about losing a full lap. But if you do reach too far and run out of gas, or if you wreck and have to tow and do the virtual tow, for those not too familiar with it, that's going to give you a time penalty before any work can start on the car. So you're magically going to appear in your pit box, but you're going to be sitting there for at least a minute or two, possibly a little bit longer than that on a road course before any work can start, and that will put you a lap or two down.
Yeah, so you got to get that math done early and be certain how far you can make it. So that is definitely going to be an added twist into tonight's race. Michael Politis making a move on, it looks like, the 22 of Zach Deuscher out there, picking up 19th place. So Michael Politis trying to move up here in the standings as he is in a battle with David Duke for that final bubble spot. David Duke sitting 2 spots ahead of him in 17th.
And that is a very important position for him right now. In that 17th spot, you see Emerson Arden working his way back through the field after his early problem up to 26. But for Duke, he's in a solid position right now, knowing he's 5 points clear entering this race. Politis was right behind that cut line, so he's ahead of him. I think Max Service is the only one in that close race for the final playoff spot that's ahead of David Duke at this point, and he's in the 13th spot. So the damage not too great for David Duke here at this point.
Yeah, Reese Schaefer sitting here in 6th place, one of those drivers who can clinch tonight their spot in the playoffs in a battle with Dalton Tucker. There was another one of those drivers, I believe he has to finish 10th or better tonight, doing so with him sitting in 7th currently.
Yeah, this is just another instance of Reese Schaefer and Dalton Tucker just looking very steady, very impressive here on this season thus far. And we've pretty much said that week in, week out for these two. Just been having really strong showings every single race, and it shows in the point standings with where they are coming into tonight.
Yeah, Tank Racing having a great season here in the Cup Series, sitting solidly in 2nd place, and these guys sitting well inside the playoffs. Byron McDonald a little bit off course, gets that number 9 revved racing forward back through the carousel here.
A little bit of an excursion, wondering if he's going to get a time penalty. We'll say definitely will. Just a question of how much of a time penalty iRacing is going to make him take to slow off pace and kind of give that time back for cutting through that turn. But he's lucky that he kept it on track after coming through. They're very slick going through the grass here at Watkins Glen.
I'm going to ask Sean if we can go to this battle just ahead of these guys. I believe it's Michael Politis and David Duke racing right here. And this is for that transfer spot. Michael Politis sitting 5 points behind David Duke for that final position in the playoffs here.
See a little bit of damage to the right rear of that 8 car for Michael Politis, but still seems to have a pretty good grip on things on the racetrack as he's closed in on Duke. That was about a 1.5 second difference here not too long ago. So that rate of closure very good here over the past lap or so for Politis. And it looks like Duke a little bit quicker through the bus stop, but a higher line through the carousel, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because you can kind of lean into late apex there and really pull some speed getting onto this longer straightaway. That's really the 2nd longest straightaway that they'll have here on this track.
Yeah, so back up front, we have a battle for the lead brewing here. Scott Healy only 4.5 tenths off of Adrian Schumacher, so closing the gap and running through the S's here. Scott Healy is going to try to carry a lot of momentum and close that gap even more on this 82.
Adrian Schumacher just looks so good going around road courses. You can tell he spent a lot of time on the service just working on those road courses. And another sign, I mean, we joked about, the Schumacher last name last time that we had him on a road course in the Cup Series at Charlotte, but giving us even more fodder now with the Alpine paint scheme there, one of the F1 teams. And that's a good-looking race car, and also a good-looking form out there on track for Schumacher, who continues to open up that lead through the bus stop and carousel portion pretty well.
Let's go ahead back here to 8th place. Check out Kyle Benson in a breast cancer awareness theme number 10 machine.
A good-looking race car, and I know there's a lot of drivers with some type of pink on their car here as we get to the month of October. I know you had the pink numbers there on your Moon Brew car on Thursday, and there's a whole lot of drivers giving that little nod to the breast cancer awareness here in the month of October.
Yeah, it's very special to me, and I know it is a lot of these other people out here sporting the pink. I lost my aunt to breast cancer, so it's very important to get the awareness out. Just go get checked. That's all you got to do. So yeah, definitely cool seeing all these cars out here tonight repping the pink. I think it just gives us a reason as guys to go out here and put pink on our cars because it looks good. I'm not going to lie.
It's a good-looking color for a race car for sure. I've had some pink paint schemes out there before. They just wind up looking good, but when you add the good cause to it as well, it just makes it that much better.
Well, tight battle here for 6th, 7th, and 8th. As Kyle Benson now getting his nose in on the mix. Reese Schaefer trying to hold off Dalton Tucker and Kyle Benson.
And this is a real curious spot when you're sitting there behind Schaefer in that 6th spot, as close as it is. Kind of touched on it earlier, but it does kind of change how you can view your braking points. And just, I mean, look at this from the onboard. You can't see a whole lot when you're tucked right behind that car. I know that the spoilers kind of have that little bit of a window and things like that. And on the super speedways, they don't have that here on the road courses because they run the shorter one. Ooh, a little bit loose coming out of turn 1. So you're just getting blocked off entirely. When you're running close to that back bumper, you don't get a whole lot of vision. And once you get to the bus stop, once you get to the last left-hander there, turn 7, turn 8, depending on what format you want to go with on the turning numbers, you kind of lose sight of where your braking points are, just that little bit, and it can throw you off pretty easily.
Yeah, you just saw how patient Kyle Benson was right there. He kind of had a run going down that straightaway. It just kind of backed out of it and let them have it going through turn 1. So knows that he's faster than these guys, but is just kind of waiting for his moment, which is what a lot of these guys have to do out here tonight. Just be patient, keep that car clean, and everything will work out.
And there's also that thought of what we were talking about earlier with the pit strategy. There's going to be some guys that are going to have to be patient and some guys that are going to be aggressive the entire time because they have it in their minds that it's going to be a two-stop race. Some guys are going to be a little bit cautious and very conservative on things, maybe looking like they're off pace, but doing it intentionally just that little bit to save that bit of fuel and turn it into a one-stopper and make up that time by having to spend 40 seconds less, 50 seconds less on pit road.
Yeah, well, one man not really holding up right now, Scott Healy. Back on the bumper of the 82 again. He is there trying to find a spot to get by the 82, but that is the tough thing. Like I just said, around this track, a lot of shade out there right now, so the track feeling nice and cool for these guys. A little more grip in the tires, as you can see them just whipping it around here, and they're going through the carousel right now.
And this carousel, I think it kind of, I say this on a couple turns around here, but this is pretty sneaky, especially at that point right there. When you get out of that turn, real easy to get loose and kind of spin it into that inside wall from where you're exiting, or the right-hand wall, that Armco barrier. And if you hit that, your night's going to be a very long one the rest of the way. But it's kind of an easy turn up until that last 10% of it, kind of similar here to this final right-hander before hitting that front straightaway. Getting into the turn, not so much the problem, but it's real easy to get off balance on exit.
Driving really deep here in the turn 1. Scott Haley going to think better of it, as I thought he was looking to the inside there for a second. But these two really showing the speed that they have through the middle portion of the run, as they are starting to put some time between them and 3rd and 4th place, James Holzer and Landon Lacey. So these guys are really flying out there, class of the field so far.
And that's impressive too. As much as they're pushing each other, they're also pulling away at the same time. So that tells me that there's not a whole lot of mirror driving on the part of Schumacher and not a whole lot of being thrown off the pace on the part of Healy. They're just running their race and just happen to be this much quicker. I mean, obviously, they're fighting for that lead position, but I don't think they're really affecting each other too much in the process. They're just that much faster than everybody else out there. And you look past Lacey, that's another 3 seconds back to Nick Goen as we got Byron McDonald off track. This isn't too far ahead of the race leaders. So they're going to be closing in on him pretty quick. And now we got side by side going into the final turn here. And Scott Healy going to take the lead for the first time tonight.
Yeah, passes him on the outside, heading down the front stretch past the start-finish line right here. Like you mentioned, Byron McDonald not too far in front of these guys, but there you go. Scott Healy going to lead that lap. Takes over the lead on lap 13. So the 64 out in front tonight.
And Byron McDonald saw him a bit ago going into the pits, so he's going to be away from this, and it's going to be quite a while till you see anybody else. I believe it's going to be about 15 seconds back to Raul Meza, and Dean Brummett going to make his way to pit road. Not sure if this is off script for him. There's a lot of damage to the back end of that car. Possibly just lost the handling on that. I know that was something I dealt with on Thursday firsthand. That back end damage does kind of just mess with the handling, especially through turns like the S's, when you kind of have that little bit of a lot of throttle on it. But that's an interesting point in the race. I think if you're expecting 2 stops, you're thinking that it's going to be, turn this race into thirds and run it like 16, 17 laps here.
Look on your screen right now. I mentioned middle portion of the run. Who's doing the best to save their stuff? And right now, Next Level Motorsports turning it up here. They are right on the bumper of our first and second place cars. James Holzer, Landon Lacey have arrived to the party as they head down, entering turn 1 right here.
Yeah, that side-by-side racing, making those passes for the race lead has definitely kind of opened that window. And one of the things that's kind of catching my eye, too, is how much that Healy has gotten by Schumacher and has opened that gap to about a half second over the course of the last lap. So I'm wondering if Schumacher either is just settling in or if he used up his stuff pretty well holding off Healy for that bit, the first 12 laps.
Yeah, Schumacher definitely comes off to me as more of a patient type out there, as we got a real big battle here for 6th, 7th, and 8th place. Like we were just watching these guys not too long ago. This is a tough spot entering the bus stop side by side. They get through there cleanly, but that's going to kill the 17's momentum through the whole turn.
Going to kill that momentum through the turn. Also going to really cost them some time, not only to the cars that are in front of them, but going to cost a lot of time to cars behind them and give that opportunity for them to close in here pretty quick on cars like the 17 of Schaefer. And you see that interval changing pretty heavily, but you also see the interval changing heavily here as James Holzer starting to close in on Adrian Schumacher. And Landon Lacey going to make a pit stop, and this seems like one of those scheduled ones. If you're looking at turning this race into thirds, that window is going to be around lap 15 to 17.
Yeah, so there must just be no shot for them to get to lap 25 like they would need to make it to the end on fuel. So we're going to start seeing pit road get pretty busy, I imagine, as one of our leaders coming down early.
And that could be just one of those mindsets of, I don't want to be worried about the fuel mileage. I don't want to be worrying about having to be conservative and if I'm going to make it. Because even if you are really conservative and if you're running a third gear when you could be running second gear and giving up that little bit of time, burning a little bit less fuel, there's still a good chance you don't make it into turning this a one-stop race. So it could definitely burn you. I don't think there's going to be many guys trying it, but it's a strategy you could. But I think the majority of the field is expecting a two-stopper.
Yeah, we'll be going by pit road here after this turn, see if any of our leaders are going to come down this time by. Looks like James Holtz are going to come down this time. So Landon Lacey's teammate coming in the lap after.
And there's going to be 34 laps to go, so 16-lap run into two 17-lap runs. That's perfectly turning this one into thirds.
Yeah, Dalton Tucker coming down pit road as well. So another one of our leaders who was running sixth before these pit stops. Gabriel Ellison, Timothy Latham. So all of Next Level Motorsports looking like they're getting their pit service done here early.
And more than usual, we talk about the undercut a lot, but I think around a road course, if you're close behind somebody or you're close behind 2, 3, 4 cars, and you pit that one lap earlier, you're going to have about a second and a half, 2 seconds that you pick up just from one lap getting around there. You're going to have a whole lot more confidence in your tires, and I think that's going to come into play here. If I'm sitting in 10th position and 9th, 8th, 7th, they're right in front of me and I'm having a hard time getting by them, I'll try to undercut them that one lap, move in front of them for those few extra seconds that you're going to pick up by just pitting one lap earlier. It's a great strategy on a road course.
Yeah, Adrian Schumacher up from the Xfinity Series after his win this week at Watkins Glen, right on the heels of Scott Healy through those last couple of turns. Scott Healy starting to put a little bit of distance between him, but these are two of our most recent winners here in SRN battling for it here tonight.
And this is going to get interesting here because there's a couple cars that are just leaving pit road that are going to be in front of them. And while you're going to have very fresh tires, especially through the S's, that's the first thing that you're coming up on when you get out of pit road. You got those cold tires that are going to be real firm, really just not wanting to give into that asphalt. And you're going to be doing that at a little bit less speed because you just can't hang on to it as much. And that's happening right in front of the leaders. You see Raul Meza getting real wide through the bus stop into the grass right in front of Healy, and that throws him off his line, and he barely hangs on to it.
Yeah, really bad spot to be catching a lap car there, but they both make it through there cleanly. Emerson Arden, the next car in front of these guys, a little bit of the ways up there. So they got some time before they have to deal with him out there. But that was a close one with Raul Meza.
And great job by Raul, too. He's on the driver chat saying sorry about that moment, but a great job by him of giving as much space as he could. He did get wide in the bus stop, and it threw him off his line, and that kind of put him into the grass, but he didn't really make too much of a mess of that either, where he kind of came back onto the track or really got in the way of that line. Like, there was no way to really avoid it once that bed was made, and he got wide through that bus stop, but he didn't compound things and make it even tougher on the race leaders.
These two in the top two opting to stay out some more, as we've seen those Next Level Motorsports coming down the last 3 or 4 laps. So maybe they know something that the others don't. Wow, Joe Ruggles sitting there sideways on this straightaway.
That was a sketchy moment there as we continue to watch these two just staying out. And with the pace that they have, I don't think that they would be able to make this 25 laps that they would need for the one-stop strategy. I think they're just thinking, let's run this as far as we can. We still have great speed on these laps. I mean, they're still going very fast around here. Trying to pull up the lap times now, but they're still running the fastest laps out on the track for sure. They're only dipping into the 114s this late in a run, so not too far off their qualifying paces, especially for Healy, who's pulling away from Schumacher just bit by bit. So they might be thinking just stretch this out as long as possible and keep the tires as fresh as possible for the final 2 stops.
Well, here's a little bit of a crazy stat for you. Their best laps are only separated by 4 1,000ths of a second. Scott Healy running a 1:12.243 and Schumacher running a 1:12.247. So these guys are practically running the same laps out there, lap after lap. Scott Healy getting a little bit better lap that time by, but practically mirroring one another out here.
And they've just been so impressive, and not just in terms of speed. I thought that threw me off for a second. Schumacher blinked out for a bit. I thought he went off track for a quick second the way the camera moved. But they've not only been fast, they have been consistently fast. And you're looking at a 1:14.4 the last lap for Scott Healy. That's about 2/10 of a second, or 2 seconds off his fastest lap. And around a road course at this point, you're looking at typically a 2 to 3 second fall off. So to only be that 2 seconds off tells me how good he is around this racetrack and just how consistent he is with his lines.
Well, I'm very curious to see how this works out for these guys that pitted. Landon Lacey just now getting past James Holzer. They already pitted, and they're up to 5th place already. So Landon Lacey putting down some really fast laps. He was over 2 seconds faster than Scott Healy that lap. So catching him very quickly here. We're going to have to see how these strategies even out. If Scott Healy is able to make it to the halfway point, how much time can Landon Lacey and James Holzer here make up on the guys out front?
If they can stretch this into a one-stopper, for Healy and Schumacher. I don't think that's anything that's going to be catchable, just because of the amount of time that's going to be saved on pit road as we see this little bit of a hairy moment, but they're going to make that work, getting by the pit cars just coming off the pit road in front of them, but just in time for the S's here for Lacey and Holzer each, so still clean track in front of them. But if the two fastest cars in this race can turn this into a one-stopper, I don't think there's a chance that they're going to get caught, barring a mistake. But the big thing's going to be, we talk about the undercut. What Healy and Schumacher could very well be doing at this point, if they still do a two-stop strategy, is going to be the overcut. And speaking of Adrian Schumacher down on pit road, but what they're doing at this point is the overcut, where, yeah, you're going to be losing a lot of time here by those doing the undercut by pitting a little bit earlier than you are, but their tires are going to be worn out by the time your tires are fresh, and you're going to be that much faster as they're in the middle of their run, and it's going to kind of wash itself out in the end. By not panicking, by staying out there that little bit longer. So we put the emphasis on the undercut. The overcut is just as strong.
Yeah, it'll be really curious to see how it all works out for these guys. I'm assuming Scott Healy, seeing Schumacher come down that last time, will probably come down this time, because there is probably no way now, seeing that Schumacher pitted, that they can make it to the halfway point. So it's really just how long you want to stay out there. And I just feel like the time difference with the larger gap between these tires being, these guys are on lap 21 of this pit run. Landon and James are on lap 7 and 6 respectively. I think that 14 laps is going to be a difference here that I don't know if they'll be able to catch up on that overcut strategy.
Yeah, and this is something too, and it looks like Healy definitely coming in this time, as he's going to be holding it to the inside. And race leader on the pit road now, and see how he does with that. Kind of, it sneaks up on you how close that pit entry is, and you got to get down to 45 miles an hour. Kyle Benson making his way to pit road as well. Jack Hedgecock's going to continue to stay out. So our runner-up on Thursday in the Xfinity race really had that race just about in the bag going into the final 2 laps before some lap traffic got in the way with an accident and opened up that window for Adrian Schumacher to take advantage. But Hedgecock's going to lead the way here in the Cup race for his first lap lead at this level.
Yeah, really out there racing with nothing to lose tonight, so why not try and stretch the strategy out, see if it works. So Jack Hedgecock is our leader in the Chase Elliott themed 43 out here as he heads through the bus stop. Next closest behind him will be Landon Lacey and James Holzer, just under 10 seconds back, and they've already pitted along with Nick Gowen and Dalton Tucker. They're rounding out the top 5.
And keep an eye on that pylon on the left side of the screen. Lacey and Holzer 9 seconds back in second and third, but then Schumacher, Healy 18, 19 seconds back in 6th and 7th at this point. So not only did they lose that track position to Lacey and Holzer, they've also gotten passed by Gowen and Tucker. In fact, now Schumacher just getting by Dalton Tucker for the 5th position. But where this is going to really play out is they're going to have so much fresher tires now, about 7 laps fresher. So that wear is really starting to hit the guys like Lacey, Holzer, Gowen, and Tucker. And now it's fresh tires for Schumacher and Healy. So they're going to have just that much easier time making their way up in the timing. So this is going to kind of level out here pretty well.
Yeah, Hedgecock's coming down pit road this time. So that's going to cycle the lead out to Landon Lacey there. James Holzer now in second. Nick Gowen up in third. So the top 3 all occupied by Next Level Motorsports drivers. They are having a great night here at the Battle at the Glen 125.
And so what basically happened now, if you do the math, it was 21 laps for Schumacher, 22 for Healy. So the rest of the race, they're going to run 14, 15 lap stints. And they can do that with both of them at this point. For the race leaders, they came in on lap 17, so they're looking at 33 laps. They're going to have to go a couple extra laps on each of those stints compared to what Schumacher and Healy are going to have to do. So their tire wear going to be somewhat similar, but they're going to have a couple extra laps on older tires. As Landon Lacey going to kind of dive in there before getting into that final left-hander and going to take the lead from James Holzer. He had a great job there getting some momentum down that straightaway and really capitalized quickly. Kind of caught me off guard how quick he made that move.
Yeah, going to see if James Holzer tries and outbreaks his teammate Landon Lacey here heading down into turn 1. It's a drag race hard on the brakes. We're going to go to our camera here in turn 1, and James Holzer is going to get the spot from Landon Lacey. James Holzer now in front.
And that's a definite passing zone around this racetrack, is just trying to outbrake into turn 1. I think one of the ones that kind of go unnoticed with that turn 1 passing zone is by giving up that speed early and really getting a run out of it. But if you get somebody that outbrakes you, it's really hard to defend that just because they're going to take that inside line. And you just can't get that run that you want to get if you kind of break a little bit earlier. And you can see that pace difference coming out of 1. Holzer just had so much speed, being able to stay on the racetrack, not having to go to that runoff, and it carried through on the S's and through the bus stop.
Yeah, starting to put some time between him and his teammate Landon Lacey, up to 7.5 tenths. And then further on back, Nick Owens 6 seconds behind these guys. But then you got Schumacher and Healy just under 7 seconds now, sitting 4th and 5th. They are trying to catch these guys as quickly as possible.
And they were 2 seconds quicker that last time by, so they are gaining very, very quickly. I think here, probably by the time we get to the bus stop, if not the carousel, this time by, they will both probably get by Nick Gowen, as they've just got so much more speed, that what might hurt that is Healy taking that peak to the inside. They might race each other side by side, going to think better of it, getting into turn 1. But I think that kind of helps out Gowen a little bit, but so much more speed with those fresh tires.
Yeah, see if he can carry the speed out of the S's to maybe get a run into the bus stop on the inside of Nick Gowen, but I don't think he's going to have it this time. Just going to opt to ride behind Nick for now and try to pick off the time where he can and see if he can catch these guys out in front. But want to give an update, though, on Michael Politis. He's running in 16th, David Duke in 19th, so that 3 position gap between those two guys is getting that bubble even closer.
And while we're kind of looking back in the field in that race for that bubble position, great run here by Adrian Schumacher to cut myself off there, as he's going to get a good run on the left side of Nick Gowen going into that left-hander turn 8, and real close side by side there. Great job giving that space on the exit. Now it's going to be the inside line for Nick Gowen going into the final turn 9. And they're still going to be side-by-side coming down that front straightaway. A little bit more momentum for Schumacher, but still very close. He's going to get a little help from Scott Healy, who's going to give him that bit of a push going into turn 1. And it's going to be Schumacher getting clear, and Healy gets clear as well. So a great job working together here for the first time for these two that have been the fastest on the track all day.
Yeah, so they're up to 3rd and 4th now with Holzer and Lacey ahead of them. But still, that gap, 6 seconds. We'll see if they can scrub some of that time off before those guys decide to come down pit road, because I think if they don't get there before they pit, I think Holzer and Lacey win this thing.
It very well could, and I think we're looking at about 8 more laps. We'll see Holzer and Lacey make that stop. About 17 laps to go would pretty much make the most sense for them. Maybe stretch it to 16, as Scott Healy going to get to the inside, going through the carousel of Adrian Schumacher, and he's going to take that 3rd position and open up a pretty decent gap in that one turn alone. So a great pass, really good momentum there from the defending series champion in the 64. Here he comes once again, making a great run here late in the season, and reminding everybody that he is the defending champion, and why he did that last season was that second half push where he was just absolutely lights out.
Yeah, winning last week at Charlotte and running really well here tonight. Led a lot of laps, but trying to make up the time lost on pit road. So the 64 is going to be running this thing hard through Watkins Glen to see if he can go back to back. And you're exactly right, just reminding people how he got that title last year.
Speaking of the playoffs and drivers trying to get some momentum going, want to give a shout out, and he's kind of in the middle of the pack, but Emerson Arden, not just because he was my pick, but he got into that lap 1, turn 1 incident, the only car that really took some damage. He's worked himself all the way back up to the 17th position. So if he winds up working his way into the top 15 at the end of this thing, getting back into that playoff picture, I think this race is going to go a long way at showing why he earned that, because Arden just not giving up on this one, picking up 13 spots since getting that turn 1 incident.
Yeah, great climb for him. He's going to see if he can maybe possibly make it up to the top 10 before this thing's over, as there's still plenty of time left coming to the stripe this time to take 23 to go. But like I'm worried here, I think they're going to be coming down pit road here shortly. Once they are inside their window, I think we're going to see Landon Lacey and James Holzer both dip down pit road.
You see that timing difference there on the bottom of the screen. Those lap 25, 26, remember, that's when they were making the passes around Nick Gowen, and then when Healy was getting past Schumacher as well. But you take those laps away a second faster, 1.2 seconds faster. Lap 23 was just after the pit stop, so still kind of getting the heat in those tires, but still 0.6 faster than the race leader. So you see that interval shrinking at a heavy clip, and their tires still pretty fresh. About 5 laps of wear on them, as opposed to Holzer and Lacey, who are about 10 laps in on their run of tires.
Yeah, so definitely a lot more speed on the 64 and 82's tires back here, and that gap is getting ever so slightly smaller as they go through these corners, down to 4.2 seconds for Sky Healy back at James Holzer. Landon Lacey's starting to fall a little bit off of James Holzer's pace as well. He's 1.8 seconds back, so 24 starting to lose some speed here.
It's so crazy when you watch a road course race and you just think of all the turns, all the space that's out there. But at the end of it, look at what our top 5 is, all within 8 seconds of each other. We're talking about, our top 4 especially, all having a good shot at winning this race. And it's kind of closing in. This one's really kind of reminding me more of an IMSA-style race, just with one driver the entire time. But just because you're seeing different strategies, we're seeing different styles around the track, different ways to be aggressive or not around here. And then at the end of it, you're looking at 4 or 5 cars all closing in on each other and getting tighter and tighter as this run goes, as we get to the, about the last 2/5 of this race, past the halfway point, and we're still seeing close racing here time-wise, all within 5 seconds, 4 seconds for the top 4.
Yeah, it's going to make an absolutely awesome finish here for the Battle at the Glen 125. Something we haven't really had all week long. I mean, Xfinity was a really good race up to the end there in the last couple of laps, but this one I feel like is going to come down to a last lap pass potentially amongst these 4 drivers who have really shown great speed. Wow, as Scott Healy gets all the way out there in the grass.
That is a nervy spot to be in, and we'll talk about it a lot around here whenever you see anybody touch that grass. For some reason, I think the grass on road courses is slicker than the grass on ovals on iRacing. It just wants to get out and bite you. If you touch that grass, it really wants to turn you around. So a great job of being able to control that, as I think that was Nick going way out into the runoff area, out of turn 1, and he's going to lose a good bit of time. Actually, no, Gowen made a pit stop, so that was actually a lap car. So Gowen onto pit road with 21 to go. He's really going to be stretching it on this last stint.
Well, blessing in disguise right there for Holzer and Lacey, as Scott Healy had to work his way around David Duke there, losing a little bit of time on them, but starting to build that back up here as he gets to the bus stop and goes to the carousel just now. No lap traffic in between him and the leaders, but here's the guy out in front, James Holzer, with a 1.7 second lead over his teammate Landon Lacey.
And some close racing here in the process, is all within 4 seconds, as Joshua Balliet and Kyle Benson, some close racing here, just for the 7th and 8th position on track.
Yeah, quietly good night for both of these guys right here. Kyle Benson running in 7th, Joshua Balliet running in 8th.
And Landon Lacey on pit road, so he's going to follow Nick Gowen, who pitted last time by. So 20 laps on this final stint. The curious thing for me is they pitted on lap 17, lap 18, so they're only doing a 12-lap stint and then opting to run 20 laps on the final, after the final pit stop. That's a curious strategy. Maybe they felt something that they just didn't like with the way that the car was handling, maybe just trying to get a better fit for things, or maybe they were just realizing how much faster Healy and Schumacher were at this point by picking up that time, and they just wanted to put fresh tires and open up a little bit of a gap. That's a real curious strategy to me.
Yeah, I think it comes down to them wanting to pit before Scott Healy catches them, just to get that little bit of extra time that they're going to be building now with the fresher tires out there, as they're going to be a little bit faster than Scott Healy. So I think this is the strategy that's going to doom the 64 right here, is if, well, the 42 stays out this time. But I think that this is going to be the undercut that pays off, and now I believe Landon Lacey is going to be the guy in the position to win this race.
It's the thing to me though is it's still so early. They're going to have a long run on really worn tires, especially those last 5-6 laps. I don't think we're going to see Healy and Schumacher come in until about 13-14 to go, just to really have a real fast run on that final string of tires. I think that's going to backfire personally, and I could very well be wrong. But I just think they're stretching that a little too far at the end of the race when you're going to want that little bit more grip if anybody gets close.
Well, it's going to make for an exciting finish nonetheless, so we're going to see exactly how it works out here in a few laps. Right now, James Holzer exiting the carousel, putting Raul Meza another lap down. Scott Healy sitting 1.6 seconds back of Holzer, so Healy is catching up ever so slightly, coming to the stripe this time to be 18 to go.
Now, while I say that, 12, 13 laps for Schumacher and Healy, I think you're looking at probably about lap 7 or 17 laps to go. So maybe this next time by or 2 laps from now, I think is when you'll see Holzer come in. Just because that kind of fits that turning it into thirds. I really think that's the strategy he's going for, just to keep it consistent and know what he's going to have with the tires underneath him going around this racetrack. But I really think you're gonna see really fast run at the end just because of how fresh the tires are going to be for both Healy and Schumacher. You're right. It's going to make it an interesting race and a real exciting one, I think, because we're going to see 3, maybe 4 different strategies for the 4 fastest cars on track all day. Oh, we got one sideways in the back hitting into the Armco barrier, and it's Jordan Sailors, who was running a couple laps down in 25th, but a pretty decent impact with that aluminum barrier coming out of the S's.
Yeah, like we always mention, no fast repairs here in the Cup Series, so some heavy damage for the 55 could really impact his night out there. Down to a second lead for James Holzer over Scott Healy. I think this is the time, like you said, that we're going to see James Holzer come down pit road as he's on lap 18 of this run here with 18 to go. Here he comes, 42 coming down pit road this time.
Healy just going to join him, and that surprises me. I'm real curious about that because he only put about 10 laps on the tires there, and now he's coming in with Holzer, and I think it's just he wants to get on the same strategy, but I think he's given up a whole lot of time by being able to stretch it out that little bit more. Yes, he would be slower for a couple laps here, but he would be so much faster at the end of the race. That's an interesting strategy, and we get to see it play out because I think Schumacher's going to stay out a little bit longer, so we can see how all these different strategies play out, and I love it.
Yeah, I think Scott Healy had the same worry that I did. I just thought that that's not enough time for these guys if they stay out too long to catch up the time that they need on Landon Lacey and James Holzer. So I think that we just saw Scott Healy make a move that could potentially be the race-winning move by coming down with James Holzer, putting him on even keel with the 42, and just seeing if he's faster.
And that undercut short-term speed, Landon Lacey is ahead of James Holzer now by about a second and a half, and that's just because of that 1 lap, 2 laps earlier that he came in. It's just going to play that much of a factor. And wow, Holzer being really aggressive here. He was aggressive coming out of pit road and kind of flirted with crossing the line before getting out of the official pit exit spot. He was being real quick and pushing that pace coming out of pit road. So he knows that Healy's right behind him and kind of joining that strategy. And oh, by the way, he's been the faster car of the 2 around the racetrack. Not that Holzer's been that much off that pace, but Healy and Schumacher have definitely been the 2 fastest here tonight.
Yeah, 3 laps difference on these set of tires for Landon Lacey and James Holzer as they go side by side, 3 wide potentially down the front stretch. Scott Healy thinks better of it, but stays tucked in behind James Holzer, heading down into turn 1 here. Adrian Schumacher coming down pit road this time.
And he's going to be behind Nick Gowen, who came in way early, about 5 laps ago. So now the way that it's going to work out at this point is Jack Hedgecox is still going to have to pit one more time. So it's going to be Landon Lacey will cycle out to the race lead, but he's only about a second and a third ahead of James Holzer. He's going to be on 3-lap fresher tires. Scott Healy just behind Holzer. Nick Gowen on the oldest tires in the 5th position, so about 4th unofficially once we cycle out. And he's got only 2.5 seconds ahead of Adrian Schumacher, who's kind of cueing that Jaws music at this point on the freshest tires.
Yeah, Scott Healy going to have his work cut out to get by James Holzer, though, and Landon Lacey for the lead. So this is going to come down to a great race. James Holzer clips the grass a little bit, kind of messing up his braking point there. It's a little squirrely entering that turn. Scott Healy going to be right on the bumper of the 42.
And that's really treacherous there. If you clip that inside curbing on that final left-hander and what I call turn 8, it just really wants to throw you towards that outside curbing and possibly into that dirt, that grass that's just outside of it. And if you clipped that, you're going around, or you're going sliding all the way to the Armco barrier or the sand trap at least on the right side on that exit of the turn. So a great job controlling that and still closing in, as we're now about 0.6 of a second the interval between Lacey, Holzer, and Healy.
Yeah, this lead is getting tight. James Holzer trying to close in on his teammate Landon Lacey as they go through the bus stop here. Scott Healy just tucked in behind the 42. These three guys going to be battling it out for these last 15 laps. Adrian Schumacher trying to get up in the mix as well, as he is a little bit behind these guys. He's about 7 seconds behind these guys.
I almost think by just coming in one lap later, I think that kind of doomed him to being behind them at the end of this race. I think that if he waited a couple more laps, short term that would have hurt, but he would have been so much faster at the end of this that he might have closed in a little bit more. But I don't think he's got enough tire freshness compared to really make up that timing, despite how fast he is around this track. I just don't think it's going to be enough to catch Lacey, Holzer, and Healy at this point.
Holzer gets a good run on Landon Lacey. He's going to take a look to the inside as they go into the S's here. This is a tight battle, a tight place to battle here, especially amongst teammates. Scott Healy getting his nose in the mix here. This is a tight battle as we exit the S's. James Holzer currently out in front, but the run Landon Lacey has might carry that into the bus stop. Tough spot for all these drivers right here.
What are teammates? They're going side by side through the bus stop now. This is amazing for the race, what will be the race lead, as Holzer is going to get by on the inside coming out of that final portion of the bus stop. And Landon Lacey going to fall to the 3rd spot on track right now. He's going to be just ahead of Scott Healy, but what a battle. And that is a point of the track that you really don't want to be side by side going through the S's. That's even more dangerous as Healy gets around for 3rd as he passes Landon Lacey. I don't know what's worse, going side by side through the S's or through the bus stop. Both of them real sketchy to do.
Yeah, that was a very important pass for Scott Healy there. He couldn't stay behind Landon Lacey for too long. As you see the lead that James Holzer now has over Scott Healy and Landon Lacey, so he is going to have his work. Wow, Landon Lacey sends it in there deep in turn 1. That is going to get him off his course a little bit. Scott Healy holding on to the position. This is allowing James Holzer to just walk away with this thing.
Yeah, either a spotter in Scott's ear or he heard the braking, the tires next to him, knowing that was a real deep entry from Landon Lacey. And I think that just kind of made Scott think, you know what, I'm going to go real wide here. It might be overkill doing that, but at the same time, I know I'm going to be safe. And he gave up a lot of time. He's now about 2 seconds behind James Holzer, but they both avoid contact with each other. But what this has also done, look how much that interval has closed back to Adrian Schumacher once he got past Nick Gowen. He is really reeling them in because of how close this racing has been side by side for 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, so we're going to see now if Scott Healy can close the gap on who would be the leader, James Holzer, after Jack Hedgecox comes down for his final stop. And Jack Hedgecock's coming down pit road right now, so everything about to cycle out here. James Holzer now gets that 1st place position on the board, leads that lap. And Landon Lacey, Scott Healy sitting 1.8 seconds back, so really built up that lead.
1.8 the gap to 2nd, 2.6 back to 3rd, but only 5.3 back to Adrian Schumacher. And maybe he was just kind of being a little gentle around this track up till this point, and he's turned on the afterburners, it seems, because he's really starting to close in. He was about 0.6 of a second, I think, faster than Holzer last time by, and they both had clean track in front of them. So this might get real interesting, and maybe this strategy is going to work being one lap later, but I think it's more that Schumacher is just starting to think, all right, time to go. Let's really push that pace.
Yeah, and he's always been one to have really great pace, no matter the car or series out there, the trucks, Xfinity, or Cup cars. He's always fast when it comes to road courses, so this is going to be exciting to the end. He just needs to be about a half a second faster each lap to really catch up to these leaders. So we'll keep an eye on that for you guys, but still sitting 5.2 seconds back of James Holzer as he gets the curb right there. Got to be really careful as that could get the car really loose. We saw that, and he lost a lot of time to Scott Healy.
Yeah, he's gone down about 0.4 of a second to Scott Healy after getting not just the inside curbing on that final turn, but then it kind of kicked him up towards that tire barrier on the outside, and to avoid it, he had to really let off the throttle and lose a lot of momentum down that front straightaway. So really going to have to kind of dial it back just that little bit in that final sector. We saw him have a bit of an issue there a couple laps ago getting into that inside curbing. So this is something that he's got to be mindful of, just trying to maybe just give it a little bit less there in those final couple turns.
Schumacher down to 4.4 seconds, so already picking up 0.8 of a second this lap. This could be the race-winning move if we see here as he pitted a lap later than these guys, giving them a little more out there on the track. We second-guessed it, but it is working out for the 82. You see him in the shot right there.
Man, this is just so good. We got the top 6 all within 9.5 seconds of each other after 39, about to be 40 laps being complete at Watkins Glen. So, I mean, a minute and a quarter just about every single lap, and yet we still see the top 6 within roughly 9 seconds of each other. Great racing here tonight, and we've seen a lot of guys, more than half the field still on the lead lap by a pretty healthy margin, too. So this has been a great job top to bottom here by these guys tonight.
Yeah, putting on a great show out here at the Glen. 10 laps to go, though, to sort it all out, see who comes home with the trophy tonight. Right now, looking like it might be James Holzer getting another win here this season in the Cup Series before the playoffs start at the Glen. But not too far back, Scott Healy's trying to reel him in to go back-to-back after winning at Charlotte last week. Landon Lacey also looking to get back into victory lane, as I know he prides himself on his road racing prowess, so I know this race means a lot to him.
Looking up front, I mean, this is, you know, we talked about at the start of the night, James Holzer, Landon Lacey being locked in already, but just that competitive nature, and also keep in mind the bonus points once we get to the playoffs. That first round, those bonus points going to carry over, so winning races is going to help, leading laps going to help, all those things is just going to go a long way for these guys in a close battle that, you know, you look at Holzer and Lacey, that they've just been throwing uppercuts at each other all season, especially in the last couple months of this season. Just all the momentum going their way, and they're looking for every edge they can against each other as we get close. And speaking of Lacey, here we go. Adrian Schumacher on that back bumper as Lacey continues to fall back just that little bit off pace, being the first one of the leaders to make a pit stop, and Schumacher just really feeling it here on this final stint as they go really nose to tail through the S's, and a bit of a dive here possibly in the bus stop. Schumacher going to think better of it. I think he knows he's got better pace and can make this pass in a safer spot.
Yeah, and still a lot of time left in this race. It says 9 laps on the board, but that is a lot of time. You're looking at about 15 minutes still to get everything sorted out. So Schumacher has time, but he can't lose too much time to our leader here working on Lacey.
Yeah, he's going to have to make this pass here pretty quick, and he gave up a little bit of time, so it's not going to happen here in these final couple turns this time by. But maybe if he gets a good exit out of turn 9 and gets a good run down the straightaway, he might be able to outbrake Lacey going into turn 1 and take that spot away. But he's going to have to do it here pretty soon. 8 laps to go. You're looking at about 10 minutes of racing left.
Yeah, so Schumacher still working on Landon Lacey as we have 8 laps to go. And he is losing time, sitting about 5 seconds back now of Holzer. Scott Healy's not losing time, though, but still sitting about a second and a half behind the 42. So really that is the only threat for James Holzer right now, is that 64 machine. Going to try and check and see if there's any lap traffic in front of our leaders here. Not too sure on that at the moment. That could really change things up, though.
Yeah, looking at the timing, I think Michael Politis is going to be about 5-6 seconds in front of James Holzer right now. So, and he's been running some pretty decent laps, so it might be a bit till they catch him if they do. So I don't think, at least in terms of lead lap, going a lap down, we're going to see anything there for too much longer. As we got a good run here down that straightaway for Adrian Schumacher. He's going to take a peek on the inside going into turn 8 of Landon Lacey. Real close as they make their way through there. Lacey edging up against the grass, able to hang on to it, but he's going to not hang on to the position. Schumacher up to third, but he lost about a second and a half over the past lap chasing down that passing opportunity.
Yeah, that really, I feel, killed his chances of possibly winning this race tonight. I think that 6 seconds is going to be too much to overcome. So now it's going to come down to the 42 and 64 having a great battle to the end. Just 2 seconds separating these guys.
And you look at the bottom of the screen, they're really just kind of trading punches here. Healy 3 times, he was a little bit faster, but no more than about a third of a second. But that bigger swing there, 0.4 of a second faster on lap 41 for Holzer, then about a quarter second faster last time by. This time it looks like Healy going to be a little bit quicker, at least through the first half of the lap as they get through the carousel, but I don't know if that's going to be enough pace difference with the way that they're trading times here at these laps.
Yeah, going by the lap car there of Joe Ruggles. A few more turns before coming down the straightaway to take 6 laps to go for James Holzer. That gap, though, back to Scott Healy is shrinking slightly. So Scott Healy could be making a move that he needs here, maybe saving his stuff early on in the run as they're on the same number of laps on this set of tires. Maybe Scott Healy saving his stuff a little bit, and now it's go time for that 64.
And I think barring a mistake, it's going to be down to these two, because I don't know if Schumacher's got a second a lap faster that he's going to need while passing 2 cars in the process. So I really think this is going to come down to Holzer and Healy, minus any mistake happening if they get near each other, possibly going for that win and getting aggressive. That could open the window for Schumacher, but it's going to be real interesting for these two, because oh, wow, real aggressive through the bus stop there for Holzer. He's going to hang on to it, showing some great grip through there, even with edging the grass a couple times. But that was a wild run through the bus stop, trying to make up time, and it somehow worked.
Yeah, that'll wake you up in that 42 car. So he is getting everything he can to try and keep that gap back to him and Scott Healy. So 42 still looking good as we come down the straightaway this time to take 5 laps to go.
He's got a wreck in front of him.
Oh, wow.
John Honeycutt, it looks like, got around on that final turn. I believe we got one other that was involved. I think that's Joshua Siegfried in the 60. So they got together, I believe, and got turned around just in front of the leaders. And, that's going to kill any run for Scott Healy as Joshua Siegfried got back up to speed and had to file in right in front of him. And either way, he was going to be in front of him going into turn 1, and look at the time hit, about 6/7 of a second. That's going to go in the favor of James Holzer.
Yeah, it was already going to be a tough mountain to climb for the 64, but now even tougher as that just killed him. He's lost over a second back to James Holzer. So really, James Holzer's race to lose at this point, but still got to work by the lap car of Michael Politis just in front of him.
And Michael Politis, one of the cleaner drivers out there, he is trying to stay on that lead lap, but there's no lucky dog situation, anything like that, with no caution. So that's about as I expected, getting out of the way there and kind of giving that line to the leaders, respecting the blue flags on a road course, as Holzer's going to hold that 2.5 second lead over Scott Healy, coming to 4 laps to go.
Yeah, gets through this last turn cleanly, going to come by the stripe this time by. I don't think he's got too many lap cars in front of him, so this could be smooth sailing for the 42 of James Holzer. Scott Healy not really making up any time that he lost working by that 60 car, so he is sitting 2.8 seconds back of the 42 with not much time left in this race.
He is still pulling away, and that's because he's got that clean track in front of him, but Scott Healy's still working through lap traffic. I think he's got a couple cars in front of him, between him and Holzer, so that might be all she wrote here, as James Holzer being a lot less aggressive this time through the bus stop, and I think that's in large part to knowing he's got that 3-second interval with cars between them.
Yeah, exiting the carousel cleanly. It doesn't seem like he's pushing that car as much as he was the last time by that bus stop where he about lost it. Seems to have a little more control in that 42 machine. But coming through the last couple of sets of turns before going down the front stretch to take 3 to go, he's got a big gap back to him into 64.
And keep in mind, that's going to be over a second a lap. That's going to need to be made up by Scott Healy as we come to 3 laps to go. But what we saw on Thursday, anything can happen here at any point on this racetrack. One mistake, you're in the grass spinning around or going off track and losing a lot of time. As Scott Healy, I do believe, finally got clear of the lap traffic, so nobody between him and Holzer, but it's going to be a tall task to make up what's really going to be now about a second and a half a lap the rest of the way.
But I mean, as we saw on Thursday, anything can happen up into the last point of the race. We saw a few lap cars kind of hinder the outcome of the race on Thursday, change the leader up in the last 2 laps. We could potentially see the same thing here tonight because it is road course racing. It's not everybody's forte, and there are mistakes out there that do happen in front of these leaders, so nothing is off the board yet.
And kind of going back, Scott Healy touching the grass just that little bit, exiting the carousel, keeps it on track, but does kind of lose that little bit of time there again on that turn. Probably just trying to give it everything he can, trying to close in that gap, but I don't know if it's going to happen here at this point. But kind of touching back on Thursday, the 2 guys involved in that race lead, both having a great night here tonight. Adrian Schumacher, we've mentioned a lot, running in the 3rd position, still holding off Landon Lacey there for that final podium spot. Jack Hedgecock's in the 9th position, so he's having a great run as well, after kind of having one taken away in one of the roughest ways you can imagine on Thursday in the final laps.
Yeah, so a good rebound run for him here. Up in 9th place, led some laps today in the Cup Series, so that has got to feel good for the Stryker Motorsports driver. But James Holzer coming through the bus stop 2 more times. He is on his way to his 5th win of the season. Gets a little bumpy off the curb there, but able to hold it through the carousel.
All right, somebody needs to tell him he's got a 3-second lead. He doesn't have to be that aggressive through the bus stop, but definitely making it work as he continues to hold that lead. But all that's going to stand between him and victory lane here today is 1 more lap and just keeping that car clean here on this final lap, not making a mistake as we watch Scott Healy from his view trying to close in that long gap as he can see Holzer's car, but it's pretty small there in that windshield as we take the white flag.
Yeah, coming to the stripe this time by 1 lap to go. And it's got to be a clean one for James Holzer. If he does that, he will be taking home the W tonight. And Scott Healy doing everything he can to try and catch back up to our leader, James Holzer. But I don't think he's going to be able to get it done with just 1 lap on the board.
That's asking a whole lot here, and if Holzer gets through the bus stop cleanly, I think that's about all she wrote, because this is going to be really the last real tricky spot on this racetrack left. Lap traffic maybe a couple seconds ahead, so that's not going to be a factor either, and James Holzer making his way through the carousel for the final time.
Yeah, going to try and exit it cleanly. No lap cars within worrying distance here as that car in front of him is way ahead of him. He's just got 2 more turns to get through, and he will be bringing home the trophy here at the Glen. A great run by him, our season points leader so far. And 1 last turn before he comes down the front stretch here, and he will get his 5th win of the season. James Holzer, your winner tonight at the Glen.
Just a real smooth run there for Holzer, and the points leader here this season picking up his 5th win of the season, so a very Larson-like win season here thus far in process for Holzer as he holds off a good run from Scott Healy, who's going to take 2nd. Really would have liked to see what would have happened there had that lap traffic and that bit of trouble that we saw there for a couple of guys not been right around this race for the lead. But either way, both were very impressive. Adrian Schumacher going to be on the podium as well with that 3rd place finish. So really the 3 fastest guys that we saw all night kept it mistake free, and they're going to be the 3 fastest here at the end of things.
Yeah, well, we see James Holzer out there on his victory lap. great win by him, but let's go ahead down the unofficial order here for tonight's race at the Glen. Not up yet, I'm hearing, since they are still going through the start-finish line, so we still got a few more seconds before we can bring that up.
Yeah, last car on the lead lap was about a minute and 14 seconds behind, so we're going to have to wait that whole way. But here we go with that top 20 finally.
Well, there you see it. James Holzer coming home in first for Next Level Motorsports tonight. Scott Healy coming home in second. Adrian Schumacher going to get third. Landon Lacey falling down to fourth place. Nick Owen going to come home in fifth.
Top 5, not much of a surprise here tonight. Dalton Tucker going to be in the 6th place position. Kyle Benson will be our 7th place finisher. Reese Schaefer in 8th. Jack Hedgecock's nice rebound after Thursday will be our 9th place finisher. And Gabriel Ellison going to round out the top 10, giving 4 Next Level drivers the top 10 finish.
Well, Josh Chevalier coming home in 11th. Timothy Latham going to be in 12th. Dean Brummett coming home in 13th. Max Service going to get a 14th place finish tonight. Scott Kalal going to be 15th.
I think that's a big result for Max Service based on where everybody else came in around that cut line. Emerson Arden, a great recovery after that turn 1 wreck. He's going to be the last car on the lead lap in 16th. Michael Politis also in that bubble fight in 17th. Bo Brady will be in 18th. 19th place is Seth Berger, and the driver on the bubble entering tonight's race, David Duke, will be in 20th.
All right, well, let's go ahead and pull off the ever tricky feat here and see if we can get an interview with the one and only Adrian Schumacher after coming home in third. I know it's a little bit of difficulty sometimes trying to get in touch with him. So let's see if we can get in touch after his podium finish tonight. I know our producer, Sean Griffith, is working on finding him out there. See if we can bring him in here. Give us a moment. Here we go. Let's see. Adrian Schumacher. It's Greg Olenek and Brandon Domain. Do you have a copy?
Well,
not hearing you, Adrian, if you can hear us. Well, this is the pesky part about technology. One of the hardest things in SRN is getting an interview with Adrian Schumacher, apparently.
I'm sure there would be a thanking to Tank Racing at some point, and I don't think he's actually sponsored by Alpine, so I don't have to worry about that part. But yeah, always difficult, and let's take another shot at it here. Adrian, this is Greg and Brandon up in the booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Hey, Adrian.
Hey.
Well, tell us about your third place finish tonight, man, coming up from the Xfinity Series after your win on Thursday, coming home in third with these Cup guys. How's that feel?
It was awesome to compete on that level going through the series. Pretty awesome.
Well, and great finish here tonight. We were kind of curious. We saw a whole lot of strategies being employed out there on that final stint. Really, the entire race, just a whole different way of going through things. What led to you going with that really long run at the start and then kind of doing those 2 mini stints there at the end?
Yeah, I just wanted the freshest tires out of anyone so I could try to make my way towards the front, kind of open without issues, which all that worked out, but James was just too fast in these things to catch up.
Well, that is often the case here with James Holzer, but great finish nonetheless here tonight in the Cup Series. Great week as for you here at Watkins Glen. But before we let you go, you got any friends, any family, any sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Alpine, unaffiliated. My everybody down in Tank. Yeah, that's it.
All right, man. Well, we'll send you back down there with your Tank Racing teammates. Go have fun celebrating with them, bud.
All right, thanks, guys. GG Holzer.
All right, well, we'll send you back down there. Congrats and have a good night. There you have it. That was our third place finisher, Adrian Schumacher. A really good week for him out here at Watkins Glen, getting a win and a podium finish here in the Cup Series. But let's go ahead and bring the second place finisher up, Scott Healy, coming home after last week's win at Charlotte. So a great back-to-back weeks for Scott. Scott's Greg and Brandon up in the booth. How you feeling after that race, bud?
Car felt pretty good. The race was awesome. I mean, there was a little bit of incidents with lap cars and team blockage, but I mean, that's expected in road course racing. But overall, the Toyota was a great car tonight.
Yeah, you looked real strong out there, really from the start of this race. And one of the things, like I was just asking Adrian about too, was just the different strategies that we saw, and that might be a common question for me here tonight as we go through these interviews. But we saw so many different strategies to kind of work your way through that, and we know there was a short stint at first for the next level guys. What led to you kind of going with that really long run at the start, and then breaking it into the two smaller ones there at the end?
Well, I want to do the long run because I know I was stronger on the long runs as well. The strategy about staying out, I want to have a faster car at the end, not the beginning. So my strategy actually worked out pretty good. I mean, I finished P2, so I mean, can't ask for anything more about the pit strategy. So I'm pretty happy about the pit crew and everything like that. My team MRM, sorry, and yeah, I'm thankful for the guys as well.
A great race here again tonight. Look forward to seeing what you can do next week at Michigan. But before we let you go, you got any friends, any family, any sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys. You guys do an amazing broadcast. My team, Murray Reedy Racing, as well as my actual friends and family. Some of them tuned in, I think, tonight. So appreciate them for watching. And my sponsors, Quickcrete, Valvoline, National Lumber, and that's who I'd like to thank tonight.
All right, man. Well, congrats as always. We look forward to seeing what you can do next week at Michigan, but go have fun. Celebrate with your teammates tonight, man.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
All right. Well, that was Scott Healy coming home in second place for Murray Reedy Smith Road Racing. So living up to that team name. But the man that they couldn't catch is James Holzer. James, it's Greg and Brandon in the booth. Tell us about your win tonight, bud.
Ooh, man, it definitely was not effortless by any means. That was a lot. The car was a lot to handle, especially once you got a few laps on your tires, and really just had to take care of your stuff and just try to be smooth and carry momentum as much as you can. This is one of the easier road courses that the stock cars go to, but it's probably my weakest. I actually thought that Roval was going to be a better outcome for us, than Watkins Glen, but it's ended up being our worst finish so far this year of any track. But yeah, we kind of discussed the strategy with Landon before the race and what we were going to do, as a team, try to, get ourselves in the best position to have track position. We qualified well. I wrecked on my first qualifying lap. I could have put up a flat probably, but I just really wanted to put a lap down because starting in the back would have taken me out of the race completely. I figured maybe if you went long, if you had pace, you'd probably be able to reel it back in. But with it just being so hard to pass, even on a couple lap difference on tires was difficult. Like you could get there, but it'd be hard to see going into your marks just because of the way the elevation changes are and stuff like that. At least this car is the low downforce package, so it has the small wing. If it had the big wing, it'd be a absolute nightmare. But yeah, I think we pitted there after 15 laps. Originally, I was going to go 16, 17, and 17 to make it even on 50. But I ended up going lap after Landon, who went on 14, and I was able to come out right behind him. And said, yeah, I'm just going to ride here. And then we rode and got through the traffic once the cycle came out there. I passed him back, and then went off to the races. Scott and Schumacher stayed out a little bit later. I noticed they were about, I think, 8 or 9 seconds back whenever it fully cycled out. But Scott was able to reel me into about a second and a half, and then I'd had a kind of lack of a good pit road entry there for the money stop, and he was able to reel that in about 6 or 7 tenths. But yeah, ultimately was just able to keep it in front of him and save the rear tires a little bit better. Had to pass Landon there. That was probably the hardest road course racing and the sketchiest thing I've ever had to do in my life, especially with a teammate beside you going, completely side by side through the S turns and the bus stop. It's not easy in these cars, especially when you're pushing. I just had to stay in front of Scott there at that point because I knew if he got past me, it was going to be the win. But yeah, we were able to hold him off and get our 5th win.
And that team battle there, that's obviously you guys have that number 1 spot and already clinched the bye for the first round of the playoffs. But you got that battle with you and Landon that's been real great the past couple of months. How's that going to work with each other as we get to the playoffs with being teammates, but being the 2 front runners?
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning here, I'm always a team player, no matter what it comes to. That's why I brought these 4 guys in. Going being returning from the original team at the beginning of the year, but all these guys really work well together, and we give each other tips and points. If we're lacking in one spot, we'll figure out how to get that guy faster to try to have as a whole of the team being as fast as we possibly can. But now I expect that we work together at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of the playoff season. The first round, Landon and I are probably going to have a decent cushion, probably 20-ish points probably on the cut line. Not exactly sure how many playoff points the bottom will have, if any. But yeah, it's just going to be about working together as best as we can. And I know our strategies may differ a lap or two, just kind of how it was tonight. And, in the end of the day, we are racing for ourselves. We're trying to race as a team, collect the team championship. But at the same token, there's a larger picture at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, I feel that we'll work together until the end.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing what you do next week at Michigan. But before we let you go, is there any friends, any family, any sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, as always, got to thank you guys for a killer broadcast week in and week out. It's a pleasure. Also got to thank all the admins and everyone at SRN that makes this possible week in and week out. Got to thank Next Level Motorsports, everybody here that makes this ownership experience fantastic. Michael York being co-owner as well. Also got to thank everybody that's on the car week in, week out. JP Designs. They do all my paint schemes, do some other paint schemes as well. They have package deals as well. $5 scheme. Check them out on Facebook at JP Designs. Also got to thank Laurel Auto Group, Extreme Sim Racing, and Butt Kicker. Other than that, it's awesome we're having this momentum here going into the playoffs. Michigan being an okay track for us, it's really just going to be about saving tires in the pack. It's very aero dependent, and it's going to be really racy and just about keeping all 4 corners on the car. And it's nice to not have to have pressure going into there.
All right. Well, we will look forward to seeing what you guys can do next week at Michigan as we get ever so closer to the playoffs. So congrats again, James, on your 5th win of the season. We'll send you back down to your teammates. Go have fun, celebrate, man.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right. Well, that was James Holzer, your winner tonight here at Watkins Glen. Brandon, it was a great one here in New York, but we are going next week to Michigan International Speedway for some 2-mile oval action.
And Michigan always seems to be producing some great racing here with the setups that we have on iRacing and in SRN. We had some great racing last season. It was the race before the championship race. This time it's the cutoff race to end the regular season before we go to the playoffs, at least on the Xfinity and the Cup side. So I expect some amazing racing here next week and a lot of drama at the end of that thing because we still got 5 or 6 guys that are very close to that 15th playoff spot.
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting as we cut down the list of drivers making it into the playoffs. And also, don't forget that first playoff race, we will be awarding a playoff lucky dog too. So it's going to get awesome over the next couple of weeks. But our next race will be Wednesday, week 12 action for the trucks, as they have a little bit difference in the schedule after the iRacing servers took a hit on one of their races during Darlington week. So they are only on week 12 here in the Truck Series, but they are going to be at Michigan as well for the Great Lakes 1:30. Catch that Wednesday, October 6th at 9 p.m. Central Time.
Man, still plenty of drama there as well. We've got some great points races playing out on the truck side. So 2 races left for them. They'll have Michigan and Vegas leading into the playoffs to close out the regular season. So expect some good quality racing there. We had a great race in the trucks last season. Expect much the same here, this time with a lot on the line for several drivers trying to make it into the playoff.
Yeah, so we'll see exactly what happens here Wednesday night. Be here as always on Speed Racing Network, but that's going to do it for us here tonight. For myself, Brandon Domain, Sean Griffith, we wish you a good night and go faster.